Romans 3:27. Then what becomes of our boasting? It is excluded. Let me tell you a story about a good guy and some bad guys. The good guy saves the bad guys by sacrificing himself so that the bad guys don't have to die. But the amazing thing is that the bad guys don't want to be saved until the good guy convinced them. That's the gospel. The good guy is God. Guess who the bad guys are? We are. Romans 3:11 through 18 tells us that there is no one righteous, not even one. Verse 11 says, no one seeks God. Verse 18 tells us, no one fears God. That means that before God gave us faith in Jesus as a gift, we didn't want to be saved. That doesn't sound like we can take a lot of credit for that, does it? And then we find out in Romans 3:19 through 26 that every single person is guilty. And the only way that we are rescued from death is because Jesus sacrificed himself and died in our place. And he justified us. And he took our sin and gave us his righteousness. Well, we can't take much credit for that either. We have no reason to boast in ourselves. We have done absolutely nothing to save ourselves. We cannot boast. Boasting is excluded. Matter of fact, we should be broken in our humility. And we should live our lives humbly, knowing that a God who loves us and who has loved us from the beginning saved us by his power and his power alone. Now, did you make a choice to believe in Jesus? Did you make a choice to have faith in Jesus? You sure did. And you made that choice in your own free will. But here's the deal. You made that choice because God changed your heart so you could make that choice. He ripped out your stony heart and he put in a softened heart to love him. That's God's grace. Now here's the challenge. We should live our lives with this massive feeling of thankfulness to God for what he has done. And if we're going to boast, we should boast in him. And we should say, look, see what God has done for me. He has transformed me. And our lives should be transformed. And they should be different. And they should continue to be transformed as we grow in our faith. We were transformed by Jesus' death. And we are continuing to be transformed by Jesus' life. Because God hasn't just shown us grace in the sacrifice of Christ to death in our past. He continues to show us grace in our present because Jesus is resurrected and he is alive. Romans 5:10 tells us, for if, while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more, now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by his life. Jesus is alive. And he is alive as our King and as our high priest. And he is humble. And Jesus has a servant's heart. And he loves you. He loved you enough to die for you. And he is there to do just as much for you now in your life of faith as he did to give you faith. So be transformed and seek him and live in his power and give him glory. And don't boast in yourself. Boasting in yourself is just another way of saying,